Hey everyone, and welcome to an overview of my second ever mock published to Rubricable, Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter. The Delta 7 is an iconic design, and we've seen it rendered countless times by LEGO over the years, but I wanted to create my ideal version of Plo's fighter as seen in Revenge of the Sith, now that we've got such an amazing new minifigure of him with a microfighter. The last time we saw this particular paint scheme in an official set was in the 2015 Anakin's Custom Jedi Starfighter, which was a rendition of the Azure Angel, a modified version of a Delta 7 with the same stripe patterns that showed up in the OG Clone Wars animated series. Before that, there was a rendition of Plo Koon's Clone Wars Delta 7B in 2010, which featured the astromech droid in the center of the fuselage. Both of these sets use the normal blue for some reason, but in all media we can clearly see that the paint should be a darker navy blue. Thankfully, the microfighter corrects this issue, and dark blue is what I decided to go with for my build. There were a few key things I wanted to be different about my Delta 7. First, I wanted the wings to be tilted at the correct angle. If you look at the Delta 7 in media, you'll see that the wings slope gently downwards from the main fuselage. However, in every single official LEGO set of this craft, the angle is exaggerated and too steep, making the overall profile of the ship too tall. My design uses a relatively new shallow angle Technic connectors to more faithfully recreate the wings, keeping the vertical profile slim. Which brings me to my second gripe, which is that the cockpit section is invariably too tall in the recent official sets. In the actual model, the sides of the cockpit are sloped to almost blend into the wing, whereas LEGO usually makes the side of a cockpit a big vertical slab. And before you say it's because the Delta 7B has blockier sides, this is still the case with prequel trilogy ships, like Obi-Wan's Starfighter from 2022. You'll see that in my model, the pilot sits a lot lower down into the ship, allowing the canopy to be lower and blended far more gradually into the wings. My final challenge was to capture the forward sweep of the stripes, which in the official sets were simplified to run more perpendicular from side to side. I also wanted the white stripes to be flush to the edge of the wing, and the blue in between to be flush to the edge as well. As you can see, I managed it with the front and rear stripe, but not quite with the middle one. These stripes are definitely oversized in general, but I thought the trade-off of cleaner graphics that are slightly out of scale was worth it here. Moving towards the back, behind the stripes you can see a representation of the wing scoops. In my opinion, this is one of the coolest details on the Delta 7, so I had to try and actually make it a three-dimensional vent instead of just a surface detail. On the underside, we can see a little suggestion of the stripes that are supposed to be under here, but what I want to focus on is the landing gear. I wanted the landing gear to be all the way at the edges of the craft, like we see in Universe, and to fold pretty flush with the body when retracted. I'm pretty happy with the result, although you should note it's not actually a true 3-point landing gear. I cheated a little and used the bottom of the cockpit to give it a bit more stability, since there's not always a lot of friction in these ball joints. In terms of sturdiness, this thing feels very solid and swooshable. The wings are attached using Technic connectors just like the official sets, so unless you're actively trying to break it, you shouldn't have anything falling apart on you, which is something that I think is very important when it comes to my mocks. When it comes to scale, my model is a couple studs longer and wider than the 2022 Obi-Wan Starfighter. Here it is next to my Republic gunship mock, and here it is next to some other sets I had laying around. So that about wraps it up for this one. If you're interested in building this for yourself, you can find the link to the instructions in the description. You might notice this video is a bit longer than my first one. I really didn't think anyone would watch that one, so I kept it very brief. I'm still not sure if anyone will watch this one, but I figured I could go into a little more detail about my design process in case folks are into that stuff. Anyway, thanks for sticking around this long, and I'll see you next time.